There's a long, long second that might actually be 2 or 3 in which Bakugou doesn't blink. He stares, trying to wrap his mind around the situation at hand and angry at himself for thinking there was a situation at all. There wasn't. There couldn't be. He's delusional, and Kirishima is just too damn nice for his own good, and maybe there's a small part in Bakugou that is reminding him that it's been too long since he's gotten laid. He needs to forget about it. Nothing happened, and nothing will. As soon as he manages to get himself under control, Bakugou can feel eyes burning into the side of his head. He turns, glaring as Ashido meets his eye, unashamed of being caught staring. She looks smug, smile wide and knowing. Bakugou doesn't like how she doesn't immediately back down with his eyes hardened on her. See something you like? She clicks her tongue at the end of the question. He should have realized earlier that she was dangerous. Her attitude reminds him too much of Kami, and clearly that carefree fun is a cover for how closely Ashido likes to look at people. Play it up with the bubbly persona until it was time to strike. Bakugou curls his nose. None of your damn business what I like and don't like. She smiles, spinning around on her stool, but always keeping her head turned as to keep her stare strong. Of course not. Kiri mentioned how you were driving up to the resort to see your parents. He cocks a brow. And what's that got to do with shit? It means you probably aren't spending Christmas with someone special. You think I can't get a date? She's baiting him. He knows that, but his anger management, especially with strangers, is still something he's working on. Even well aware of this fact, he bites. He's not going to just roll over and take it. Don't worry. She catches herself with a hand on the countertop, stopping the rotation with ease. Ashido winks, her eyes softer and her smile less sinister. He's single too. Bakugou can feel his throat tighten, and he bites down hard on his tongue, hating how transparent it all is, how he is. Mina, are you playing nice? Sero calls out from the kitchen, and the mood shifts all too suddenly as Ashido jumps from her seat to follow the call of her boyfriend. You know I always play nice. Bakugou is left alone in the empty sitting area of the diner with the soft sounds of the couple doing dishes in the background. He is not, reeling from the short conversation. Nothing Ashido said was a surprise, technically, but hearing it aloud was... he doesn't know exactly how to process it. There's nothing to do with the information besides let it bounce around his head, echoing from one corner to the other. Of course Kirishima is single. He lives alone with his dog in a house his father built, and the only adjustment it seems to have had from the original design is the little gym. Bakugou doesn't know what the fuck he's supposed to do with that now. It isn't as though he lives here. He was passing through and got trapped. If this was a fairy tale, someone would have tried to eat him already. But no, nothing like that. Just a hot woodsman in his overly welcoming little town with his childhood friends talking too much and too loudly. As soon as he's able, Bakugou will leave. That's how this works. He doesn't stay here because a woman mentions someone being single. His parents are already worried about him. His cat is surely running amok with Deku watching after her. He has a job, a good one, with a plan to be chief in 5 years tops. He has an apartment and people he kinda calls friends. Co-workers he drinks with after long shifts where ash is still smeared across their cheeks. Shooting the shit to distract with anything that wasn't fire and death. He can't stay here. Dude, you look like you're having a serious crisis right now. Bakugou jumps, head whipping around to find a blond man dressed in an oversized hoodie and pajama pants looking half asleep as he stands there yawning wide. He has a blanket barely hanging across his shoulders and feet bare and wet with clumps of snow stuck to the frayed ends of his pajamas. He really doesn't like getting called out by some guy who looks like he's also going through a serious life crisis. At least Bakugou knows he showered this morning. Bastard. Who the fuck are you? Bakugou figured the little inn was vacant except for Ashido and Sero. The blonde snorts, taking a seat on the stool next to his own, pulling the blanket tied up over his shoulder so it doesn't fall. I should be asking you that question, Mr. Mysterious. Also, please don't be so yelly this early in the morning, dude. It's past 9. Fuck. The man slumps against the countertop, groaning against the surface. He looks like he might actually fall asleep right there with the long pause he takes before, finally. That's so early, dude. He looks up, shouting, Sero, buddy, there's still food left, right? This is a restaurant, stupid. Bakugou watches Sero's head pop up through the service window, glaring out, sizing the blonde up with dark eyes. He's only returned with a very tired-looking smile, an expression of good faith Bakugou can only assume as Sero shakes his head and once more disappears from sight. He's not done, though. A moment later, Sero comes from the kitchen, arms carrying a lighter version of the breakfast he served the rest of them earlier. You're lucky we're friends. Kirishima and Tetsu ate all the bacon, so still sucks to suck. The blonde grins all the while, not seeming to mind the lack of protein and fat as he shoots up in his seat. Best friends. You say that. Sero rolls his eyes. And yet, the first time I see you in months, all you do is use me for food before crawling back to your room to talk to your boyfriend all night. The breakfast is very obviously cold, which Bakugou can appreciate that level of pettiness, seeing as how he very easily could have heated it up or kept a plate hot for him. Still, the blonde doesn't seem affected at all, happily thanking Sero before shoveling a huge mouthful of rice into his mouth, reminding him immediately of Kirishima the few hours before as he too devours his food. Ashido comes out a minute later, towel over her shoulder with the teapot in one hand and a collection of cups clasped between her fingers in the other. Let Dinky be, Hanta. He's young, dumb, and in love. What else do you want him to do? She's smiling as she pours the four of them tea. Kaminari doesn't seem to notice the insult thrown his way when Ashido offers him the cup. With his own cup pushed forward, Bakugou doesn't deny it out of politeness and the fact that his coffee mug has long been empty. By the way, Dinky, this is Bakugou, Kirishima's roadside man. Bakugou, Kaminari Dinky. Kaminari gives him a wide smile, rice stuck to the corners of his mouth. What's up, roadside? Fuck you. Hey, Bakugou. Sero asks after one pot is empty and another is being filled. Kirishima mentioned you were a good cook. Bakugou cocks a brow. Yeah, so. You any good at baking? He pauses. It's been a while. He's not typically the one to bring baked goods around the firehouse. Surprisingly enough, they usually fell into Anasa's category of poorly formed cookies that were a hit or miss with being overcooked, but always with enough sugar and butter put in that not many people mentioned it, beyond Bakugou, of course. Especially because everyone knew it was a poor excuse for flirting with the obvious half and half that went so unnoticed it was embarrassing for both of them. Kami always gave the worst dating advice, and Bakugou was always too entertained by the disaster pair to say anything. Regardless, Bakugou didn't bake very much. Not to say that was something he was going to admit, because he's for sure fantastic at it anyway. Yeah, why the hell wouldn't I be? Sero smiles at him, a bright light in his eyes. It looks like a challenge. Perfect, you can help me with the cakes. Mina and Dinky are both terrible and banned from using the oven. Hey! Both Kaminari and Ashido pout, but Sero easily waves them off, probably so used to it at this point it doesn't even faze him anymore as he gestures for Bakugou to follow him back into the kitchen. If he's being honest, it's a nice change of pace. The kitchen is cluttered, but clean and tidy with more room to move than he would have ever expected from the small outer appearance of the diner. It's also much warmer here than out front, which should be obvious, but Bakugou still finds himself relaxing as the heat melts into the fabric of his clothing, actually making him hot. It's a nice warmth, comforting. He's glad to be back here, feeling less overwhelmed by the constant chattering conversations around him and the appears of another new face what felt like every 10 minutes. Bakugou welcomes the escape, following Sero back towards a wide table that's currently cluttered with every baking basis and then some. You ever made a sponge cake before? Sero asks, washing his hands in a nearby sink that Bakugou soon follows after. Who hasn't? Bakugou's quick to respond, though it's been some years since he's ever done so. Probably for one of his mother's birthdays when he was much younger. Still, they were simple, basic. He would be fine. As though he could feel the half-truth in the air, Sero smiled. Well, if need be, I have a recipe you can look at. We need to make 25 batches. Don't ask. For what? Oh, we give 'em out to the people around town. Sero starts, cracking egg after egg into a bowl. Christmas cake, you know. Some people like to make it themselves with their kids, family, traditions. But for those who can't, or some people simply like the gift, we make 'em. Well, my grandma and Mrs. Kirishima did them before. Bakugou's stomach immediately drops at the mention of Mrs. Kirishima. Past tense. Always in the past. It feels as though her ghost is starting to linger, or maybe it always has been and Bakugou is just now starting to see her, in the house, in the town, in this little diner kitchen that, up until now, had no connection beyond knowing that Kirishima had his own connections there with friends. Now he can only wonder if she had actually worked here, or if she simply helped an old lady make cakes every year because she was that type of person. Kind, giving, the type of person Bakugou knows Kirishima is. He doesn't know Kirishima's mother, has barely heard anything about her. No pictures shown to put a face to her spoken memories, but can still imagine how bright her smile must have been, as there can only be one place Kirishima could have gotten his from. Bakugou's glad, for now, that the redhead isn't here. He doesn't want to see the gutted look in his eyes. The conversation falls silent for a moment, with Bakugou not knowing what to say that won't lead down another path of remembering the dead. It's awkward in that time, but he figures he can deal with awkward instead of sad. He bites his tongue, weighing out sugar. This place is seriously into Christmas, huh? It sounds safe to him, even if he doesn't want to talk about this holiday at all. He's never really enjoyed Christmas, never enjoyed many holidays in general, but Christmas was always so cheerful, so happy. Everyone wanted to spend time with their families, their partners, go look at flashy lights and take romantic walks through frozen streets. It was shit. The insane amount of decoration on the way in didn't give it away. Sero teases, which makes Bakugou's anger spike for a second or two before Sero's laughing. Bakugou, relax. No one here is trying to be a dick. That might be the truth, but Bakugou still feels on edge. Christmas has always been a huge deal here, ever since I can remember. Sero shrugs. Everything's always been about snow and lights and food as soon as December rolls around. People start prepping immediately. Giving presents is this huge deal that so many people stress over, me included. That ring talk from earlier is no joke. I've been planning for 2 years at this point. He's talking about Ashido, about a proposal, about marriage. He's open with everything, just like it seems the rest of this stupid town is. There's no secrets among strangers because none of them see each other as such, just friends and family, all close-knit and welcoming. Bakugou hates how tight his throat feels, how uncomfortable the whole talk makes him. It shouldn't fucking matter after all. He'll be gone in a few days. And that's mild compared to how much Kirishima loves it, though. Fuck. That's an open-ended statement. He's supposed to ask about that, or Sero's supposed to be elaborating more, and there's a part of him that wants to know. Something that's nagging at him to get every answer he can, because he wants to know more. Everything. Whatever he'll be able to have about the redhead. But he doesn't. He refuses. Bites his tongue, because he can't keep digging a deeper hole, otherwise he'll get swallowed up in the snow. His stomach feels hollow, but he ignores that. Sero apparently is pretty good at ignoring it too, not delving deeper than what the surface shows. He can read a room and the topics to avoid. For the rest of the time, Sero seems to curb his talk whenever Kirishima is brought up beyond his relevance to their friendship as a whole. It feels like cheating. Bakugou is grateful in his silence. Bakugou doesn't say a word, much like he did with breakfast, content to zone out and only focus on the task at hand as they slowly work the eggs and sugar together, moving on to the flour, butter, salt. It's a long process that moves quickly with the pair of them. Sero doesn't talk the entire time either, but he comments here and there, either on Bakugou's technique of whisking or to throw in some other trivial fact about the little mountain town and Christmas. Bakugou can't find much to contribute with besides his muttered out curses when corrected by Sero's sharp eye. He's done the same thing for Christmas since he was little. It's never been a holiday he feels he needs to celebrate, or rather put an effort into celebrating, as it has mainly been about his parents. The only reason he still comes up into the mountains is to tag along, mostly because when all you do is work and have very few friends, people start to talk. He hates it. They sound so empathetic about it, like he should feel sorry for wanting to be the best and not having time for anything else. Bakugou grits his teeth, pulling his arm too hard and too fast, his huge bowl of cake batter splashing up and out across the table. "Hey, Bakugou." Sero interrupts his thoughts with a hand on his shoulder that Bakugou is very quick to pull away from. "Sorry, you good? You zoned out for a while." He opens his mouth with a sharp word on his tongue, then snaps his jaw closed tight with a clack, reconsidering. He can try. Sero really hasn't been trying to be an ass. "Yeah," he says, taking a deep breath. "Yeah, I'm fine." They separate out the batter into pans, putting them into the oven before cleaning up. Sero doesn't say much else while they do, but he keeps looking at Bakugou from the corner of his eye with the same concern Bakugou's caught on so many other people's faces in the past. He does his best to ignore it, but he can't seem to get the feeling from itching across his skin. It makes him feel so much worse. "You two finally finished?" Ashido is back behind her desk in the lobby, Kaminari on the floor next to her with little squares of paper beside him and a growing pile of little paper cranes at his feet. Sero smiles at her. "For now. Everything's in the oven and we still need to prep the strawberries and make whipped cream, but that can wait." "Nice. Up for helping me finish decorating?" Bakugou doesn't want to, but there's little else to actually do besides go find an empty room to take a nap in. But he's not tired at all, and staring at a wall seems just a little bit more boring than helping out with decorations. Thankfully, he's assigned to crane folding duty with Kaminari instead of snow shoveling that Ashido batted her eyes at Sero to get him outside in the cold. Unthankfully, he was assigned to crane folding duty with Kaminari. It takes him roughly 2 seconds of semi-silence to start up, immediately talking about his relationship like a broken record. Ashido is terrible and indulges him. "I still don't understand why you didn't bring him up with you." Ashido whines. She's wrapping what Bakugou can only assume are empty cardboard boxes in colorful Christmas wrapping paper, bows expertly curled on top for decoration under her tree. "I really want to meet him. We could have double dated." Bakugou rolls his eyes, trying his hardest to drown the pair of them out as he continues to fold paper crane after paper crane in his hands. "Well, I didn't want to rush anything, you know. We've only been serious for 3 months. I feel like I could still scare him off at any time." "Yeah," Bakugou mutters near silently under his breath. "I'd get scared off too." Ashido huffs. "Nonsense. The way you talk about him, he's so head over heels for you. Come here, let me see that picture of you two again." Kaminari has his phone out quicker than anyone Bakugou has ever seen, and it takes him no time at all to pull up a picture of his boyfriend. Probably because he has his entire phone memory filled with idiotic selfies or candid shots of him. All bad lighting and blurry edges, and... Bakugou pauses with a little slip of blue paper between his fingers, half folded awkwardly looking to make a slightly squashed crane as he finishes, but he doesn't care as he catches a glimpse of the phone screen as it passes from one idiot to the next. The half-formed origami falls from his fingers, uncaring, as his brain catches up with a glimpse of the purple he just saw. His sudden shock goes unnoticed as the two keep talking, Ashido giggling loud at the phone. Bakugou feels like his eye is twitching. "No fucking way." "Hey, Pinky, Pikachu, shut the fuck up for 2 seconds." They stop, looking up from the phone to stare at Bakugou, confusion written all over their faces. Damn it, he really doesn't want to confirm what he thinks, but he needs to know for certain just in case any future fights he may or may not pick while grabbing his late-night coffee and sandwich. Plus, he needs to avoid any future meetings with Kaminari at all costs if he wants to keep his sanity intact. Bakugou glares at the other man. "Your boyfriend. He works at the 24/7 cafe across from the pet store." Kaminari blinks, tilting his head like a dog trying to figure out human language. Yes? Looks like a dumbass zombie with a bad purple dye job. I did his hair. Hitoshi? Dude, yeah, what the fuck? Bakugou snarls, standing up to snatch the phone from Ashido's hands just to make sure. Staring back at him is the exact same asshole who serves him his far too early morning coffee when he has a few extra minutes going into his shift. He looks happier than Bakugou can ever remember him seeming at all, but it's for sure him. No one else has eye bags like that. Hitoshi Shinso, insomniac barista, snarky asshole. He's the bastard who tried to steal my cat. There's a long, long pause where Bakugou can actually hear the gears turning in Kaminari's head before suddenly something sparks behind his eyes. He slams his hands on the countertop, grinning, looking far too snarky and bright. No way, you're the explosive dick that likes shitty coffee. He's the one that makes shitty coffee. Bakugou hisses right back, hands slamming down longer and stronger than Kaminari did. He won't deny that first part, but no one is allowed to insult his taste. Ashido looks as if she's just discovered an actual gold mine, biting her lip hard, trying to fight the smile on her face. Dinky, your boyfriend tried to steal Bakugou's cat? Yes. Kinda. Fuck you. That asshole watched her once, insulted my ownership ability, and said she was better off with him. Kaminari shrugs, looking a little more sheepish now. Well, in his defense, he did say you kept letting her get out. She's a sneaky bitch who used to live on the streets. I had her for a fucking month before. Fuck's sake, she's fine now. Bakugou can feel his headache returning quickly. Why is he trying to explain himself? He also said she didn't have a name. Her name is Cat. Bakugou, babe, totally on your side here. Ashido is snickering. But that's not a name. I'll show you a fucking name. Bakugou reaches across to grab them both, Kaminari by his shirt, Ashido with a fist wrapped in her scarf. And he's overly satisfied to see they look just a little more scared when he jerks them both closer and... Above the door, the bell chimes. The three of them all look back to find Sero, shovel in hand, accompanied by Kirishima having returned, standing in the doorway looking just a little bit startled by the scene they just walked into. There's complete and utter silence for a full minute before finally Kirishima clears his throat. So, what'd I miss? Nothing. Dinky's boyfriend tried to steal Bakugou's cat. Both Bakugou and Kaminari turn to glare at the woman. Kirishima blinks. Right, that'll need some explaining soon, but I was wondering if anyone wanted to go snowboarding. Bakugou figures it's probably better than double homicide. Probably.